Emma, what?
I'm David. Would you like me to swap with Emma?
Can anyone else hear David?
Yeah, I think we got the core folks, so yeah.
Okay.
So that's between you and she.
Okay.
At the 9th hole, we'll swap.
Okay.
Sounds great. All right, who's up?
I think Karen's going first here.
Oh, okay.
Are we actually
welcome
streaming
everyone
yet?
to the live stream. Yeah, we're streaming. It's on.
Awesome.
Welcome to the live stream.
Hello world,
So I think
hello live stream.
Our tradition is that you introduce yourself on the first putt, so you can do your first shot and then introduce yourself, Karen, and let everyone know who you are.
Okay, well, hi everybody. This is Karen Prell. I was the original puppeteer for the worm in the movie Labyrinth, and I'm really excited to be back in that world and have a bunch of friends checking it out with me. So, I'll try this first putt here.
You'll be judged. Oh, that almost.
And boink,
You'll be judged
magically.
entirely on your mini golf skills, however.
Oh,
that's
of course,
the rub.
okay. All right, try again. Oh, I need my.
It'll be it'll be the next person's
next
turn.
person.
So I think David is up.
Okay, this first time playing it with a group. Okay.
Oh yeah, totally. And this is also sort of like trial by fire, live streaming, and also just the sheer number of people that we got in here.
Woohoo!
And I am Sir Didymus, and I do communications for Mighty Coconut.
No, David, the trick is to get it in the hole.
Ah! Now you tell me.
Pro tips.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. I'm Zach Alexander. I'm the lead concept artist at Mighty Coconut.
All right.
I draw all the pictures. Well, not all the pictures, but I draw a lot of pictures. Nice. You do it? Yeah. Yeah.
Nicely done. Okay. I practiced this shot a couple of times now on our multiple tries getting everything set up. And it helped.
Okay.
Sweet.
And you are?
Did you introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
who are
Lucas
you,
Martel.
Lucas?
I was the creator of Walkabout.
All right. I don't know where the camera went, but hi, camera. I'm Jared. I didn't work on Labyrinth or this hole. I'm just lucky to be here. No, I'm from toughpigs.com, which is a Muppet fan site.
Awesome. Welcome.
A great Muppet fan site.
Yeah,
Awesome
love the
Muppet fan
review.
site for awesome Muppet fans.
Thank you very much. We try.
I'm Edward. I'm the Australian office of Mighty Coconut, and I am I'm going to say terrible shot. I do
The
all
worst
environment
golfer
modeling.
of the group.
I am the worst golfer on the team.
I haven't
but things
done it
like,
yet.
the house, the maze. So I take the basic shape and pretty it up and make it look nice, and I also do the putters and the golf balls.
Yes.
I think there's only
And I'm
room for
Don
one
Cart-
Australian here, so...
That's right. Bye. I'm Don Carson. I'm an art director here at Mighty Coconut. And a terrible golfer.
Yeah.
He draws lots of awesome pictures too.
Yeah, we're drawers.
2D artists unite. No, just kidding.
All right. Is it back to me yet, or have we got one more?
I think
Person,
so. Wesley has to go.
Ah.
Yeah, we had problems with
Yeah.
observer mode, so I think Wesley actually has to play is the problem.
He gets to go.
I think
We
he has
believe
the
in you,
headset sitting
cameraman.
on the music stand, though, is the problem. Sorry, Wesley. I was about to say, yeah, Corey, you get to play. Wesley is usually our camera person, but yes.
There we go. It says my turn. All right, here I come.
Mhm.
There you go.
All right. Let's see what I have learned.
Much better.
got that far.
Just keeping an eye on the live stream chat here. Karen, there's so much love pouring out for you. Just
Oh my god.
people telling you did a wonderful job animating the worm, and I'd also like to throw in that I think you did a wonderful job animating Wheatley, and your work at Valve is just delightful.
There's just a lot of crossover bringing characters to life.
Well, I mean, can we quickly just point out you are Red Fraggle from Fraggle Rock? I feel like that needs to be brought up.
Yes, and those who want to learn more about the reboot of Fraggle Rock, there's an awesome podcast on Tough Pigs called Fraggle
There is
Talk.
Fraggle Talk, hosted by Joe
a lot
Hennes.
of behind the scenes.
Nice.
Oh, is that my
I was doing
replay?
a little bit of moderating.
That's
I
your
didn't
replay.
touch anything. Ah,
Yeah, Karen, I'm actually very curious to hear about that kind of transition from like physical handheld puppeteering to digital animation, because you've done it all basically.
well, I was a fan of Disney animation even while I was puppeteering, but hand-drawn animation is, man, that's a big skill. So, but once computers started being able to help out with animation, so that you know the character would stay on model every time, and you were just moving it like puppeteering it, then it really helped me have a gateway into to doing animation.
So one of our viewers asked, besides the worm, which they love, of course, you know that, what are some of your other favorite puppets that you have puppeteered?
Oh gosh, well, I like performing in Labyrinth. I like performing various goblins. I did the one that has a giant helmet that's eating a chicken leg.
Oh yeah.
and sometimes sits by the feet of Jareth. I did that one, and then just a few others running around. I enjoyed working on Shaft of Hands.
Oh yeah.
The one that's got a mustache. That my hands are the mustache for that one. Oh, my turn. Okay. All right. Okay. I love the extendo.
The fact that the putter always hits whatever length it needs to be.
When I was first playing, I was thinking, "Oh man, these are so long," and then I realized how it adjusts to you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
It's terrific
I
and
went,
disappointing playing real mini golf after this. And you go,
after
the
this,
putters.
and then your putter just like drags along the ground really anticlimactically and just makes a nasty
It's
sound.
so heavy.
Yeah, and hot and sweaty out there. It's just like there's bugs and other people, and
Like
I shouldn't say that. There's some real mini golf
here.
folks who are watching and probably real mini golf is also great. It's very different.
We're just bad at it, and therefore
we stay in our lane.
So one of the viewers wants to know if you
That's
got to
horrible.
meet David Bowie during the making of the movie.
Yeah, we were working right next to him. In fact, the inside the Labyrinth documentary, which I think is maybe floating around YouTube somewhere, they show shots of us in the throne room. All the puppeteers in a pit in the floor, and David Bowie walking around up at the floor level, and me and Brian Henson and some other puppeteers just puppeteering right next to David Bowie. So yeah, he was working right with us, and he was just really friendly and really interested in the puppets and the whole process, because he was a performance artist, so this was his kind of thing. Okay, here we go. Boop. I love the little sound it makes. It's just perfect. It's just perfect.
We
I'm embarrassing
actually should
myself
have
in front
reached
of
out
Karen
to you
Crow.
because all of the goblin sounds were I recorded those in my car. I wish we had been in contact. I could have gotten you to do a couple of them, and it probably would have sounded or would have been a little more authentic.
I love the mental image
Can I
of
ask
you
Karen
and the family in the car, just going. "Mah."
Yeah,
Can I ask Karen a question?
sure.
Yeah.
Karen, can you tell me about working with Jim as a director?
Oh man, he was just like one of
Help
a
me.
kind. He was just so joyful. So even the craziest, most complicated thing, he was just going for, what was going to be the best idea and what was going to be the most fun, not only for the audience but for the people performing. And he would just be, smiling and excited, and especially when he was performing, he would just be, get in there and smiling. And even as a director, I got some pictures during Labyrinth where he was just watching us on the monitor or watching puppeteers with a big smile on his face, just seeing how it was all working. So he just appreciated everybody's hard work and was able to appreciate the fun of everything, just as if he was an audience member, and that really helped the productions be really special.
Yeah, great.
Wonderful.
Oh, wonderful.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah. And before we were playing here, we were chatting as we were kind of getting set up, and you were saying it was kind of cool to kind of come back to Labyrinth just because it's such a that even though it's low poly and it feels very different, it sounded like we hopefully didn't miss the mark too much in terms of recreating what it actually felt like to be on the set.
Oh yeah, I was asking, were you working from like set blueprints or something? Because there's certain things just walking in there is like, I feel like I'm back on the set again.
Mm-hmm. I have actually a super nerdy industry question. I'm just kind of curious with something like Labyrinth, like when you've got that many puppets and puppeteers, a lot of shots were super complex in that. Was it I'm just curious how long that entire process was of just shooting that? And this is a very insider baseball question, but I can't imagine that wrangling that was easy.
Well, it was, a lot of planning, and we had Kevin Clash and Brian Henson were our puppet captains, so they would work with Jim and the producers just to figure out, the puppet coordination side of things, and it was a lot of work.
Yeah. So probably not too unlike then a regular live action film, just in terms of how. Except you're talking to the puppeteers as opposed to talking to the, the on-screen actors, basically. But same direction, same everything.
Except it's really like every puppet shot is a special effects shot. So it's not just, the character can walk in using their own legs and know where they're looking. It's like that extra added layer you always have with puppets, where getting it to give the impression of life and weight and movement with all the magic that goes into making it work.
So one of our viewers wanted to know if puppeteering sort of takes a toll, how exhausting it is physically. Does it take a toll on you over time? Is it taxing on you physically? Because, so many complex creatures, and I know there's a lot of contortions involved, so they want to know sort of how that is physically to do puppeteering.
Well, most of the time you're just working in little short bursts, so it's not like you're doing you have your hand up for 20 minutes or something. Sometimes in Junk Woman, it was so kind of tricky getting in and out of her. Then even in between, we'd do, short takes, but then in between, I just have to kind of sit on a chair rather than totally taking her off. So that was tricky, but most of the time you're just shooting in short bits, and in between you just kind of relax and take the puppet off, and it's more just the effort of doing anything for long days. Shooting on a film, you're shooting long days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's good though. I think we've talked a little bit before about like stop motion, where sometimes like that can be really demanding, where you're spending the entire day in weird positions, leaning over, elaborate sets, trying not to bump anything and all that. But yeah, it's great that it's a bit more. You've got a break between it. You're not just constantly doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes even if you're in some having to crawl underneath or be in some weird position, the best naps I've had were when I had to crawl into some weird inaccessible place and it was hard to get out of, so I just lay down in between takes and sleep.
So some of the questions we're getting from the chat are like how we decided what to include and what not to include in the Labyrinth course. So do you all want to talk about sort of what made the cut, what didn't make the cut, how it's sort of it's Don.
That's a Don question.
Well, we wanted to make sure that we created the experience of as much of the Labyrinth as possible. And then since each of our 18 holes had the potential of being their own scenes, we just were kind of limited to 18 in a way. And then it was a matter of picking those environments that best supported interacting with mini golf. So if anything didn't make the cut, it probably more had to do with it was less place-based and there was less opportunity for a really nice interaction as far as mini golf is concerned.
Yeah, because I know you also did the Fireys as well, which that was actually one of the scenes that we weren't able to get in because we had to cut something in that because it took place sort of in a bit of more of a void and it was more of a special effects thing. The environment for that one was harder to get in. It's so environmental that I know a couple people have asked about the Fireys, and yeah, we wanted to get everything in, but that was one of the ones that we had to sort of hold on to the environment stuff.
Yeah.
And the trash
Yeah,
lady.
makes sense.
We had to lose the
Karen, I think it may be
junk
your
lady.
shot. I'm not sure.
I didn't see the thing, but let me see
Or it could be
if I.
Wesley's.
Okay, it popped
might
me
be
there, so
Wes.
it's my shot.
Oh, yeah, Wesley, I think it's your shot. I'm not sure. Oh. Very good.
We also don't have the junk lady, and that was also mostly because of the amount of junk that we would have to put in would have been very
man,
poly intensive.
I hear either the junkyard, and not junkyard, not really
Good shot.
a golf
Thank you.
a golf friendly place.
Well, even that, because one of the other really iconic scenes was the ballroom, and for folks who haven't played the hard version, that was sort of the concession, is that we realized afterwards that, we could sort of set the entire hard version of the course as if the masquerade ball is happening, and we were able to get that scene sort of represented in a way. Which I'm actually really happy, if you haven't played the hard version, that's kind of where we were able to put that, and we ended up making it a much larger part of the kind of the entire hard course is built around it. But that was when we managed to sneak in there.
Okay.
So a couple of the
Is
questions
the
are
person
sort
who...
of.
So I was going to say, it's the person who designed, who built Hoggle in the room. Sorry, I don't quite know who everyone is.
That would be
because
Emma.
he is
And
amazing.
I'm gonna
okay.
swap with Emma in a little bit.
Okay.
Once I've talked
He's-
more about
yeah,
the
he's-
environment
he's-
stuff.
He's really sweet.
he
His
looks
animation is nice, and his design is so fun.
Yeah. Henning animated
and-
that one, Emma modeled, and Zach, so Zach was really involved with the characters' designs, and especially the translation of the existing models into, the existing puppets into sort of like the low poly aesthetic. So yeah, Zach, maybe you can talk a bit about, kind of bringing the characters over to low poly.
Yeah, sure. So we have like a kind of an aesthetic we're trying to like stick to in the game, like enjoying the low poly kind of vibes that we have going on. So I would take a screenshot of one of the characters, like Hoggle here, and I would sort of draw out what a basic mesh might look like. And I have like this sort of benefit of knowing 3D, but not 100% knowing 3D. So a lot of my choices were more aesthetic as opposed to function, which I thought kind of like fit well with like kind of the aesthetic that we have going on in the game. And it ended up working really well when I would pass these off to Edward or Emma or anybody to make these characters, and they did a really great job of taking those drawings to heart. And kind of the great part about doing this is that it's like never one person's job. It's like this really cool collaborative like pipeline of where you get to see the final product. Like when I first came in here and saw all the animations that Henning had did for him and just sort of saw him come to life, it was just so cool.
Yeah, and I
Yo,
love
let's
he's got the little
game-
face on the back of his vest.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh
We had
yeah.
to get that in there. Well,
Yeah,
speaking
and-
of which, let's move on to hole 3. We'll get
Well,
up to
a couple of questions are
Karen's
sort of about sequencing. So people want to know, like, how does the course follow the storyline? And also, Ludo, why does he show up twice? Why is that? People are really curious.
Oh, Don, you were right. Your rule of the second character, the second Ludo.
Yeah.
That's
Well, we
another-
had to
Because he's
have him.
twice as good.
Well, we had to have him in Calling the Rocks, so that's why we ended up having him second. But it is a theme park rule that when we're in the theater and the curtains close and it opens again, we see an actor, we are willing to believe that there's only one actor. But when a theme park, if you see the same character twice, you register it as two separate people. So that's the Ludo effect.
Mm-hmm. And it breaks the immersion by having 2. So we thought we might be able to get away with it, but
We got caught.
well, part of the reason that we also needed him up there calling was because in one of the original versions we had the rocks actually rolling through that, which was one of the scenes from the movie. On hole, what would that be, 15? And we actually ended up cutting that from gameplay because no one could complete the hole without going, just like taking a dozen strokes. It was just really mean. So we had to simplify it and made the rock sit still. So
So this
a
taps into
little bit
another
of the Ludo
question, which is
calling was lost.
people wanted to know, they're appreciating the special mechanics and features. Are there things that we wanted to do that we couldn't do, or things we had to sort of take out? Do you want to comment on that, Lucas?
Yeah, I mean the rocks. Oh, good shot. The rocks
Thank you.
rolling were definitely one of them, but that was cut more just because it was so ridiculously hard to do. I'm going through all of the scenes all the moments in my head to see if there was any others. I think that just about everything else made it in. If anything, we usually start off with a fairly ambitious sort of way of doing things, and a lot of times what ends up getting cut is as much about sort of like what actually works as it is about technical requirements and all that. So yeah, I don't think that there was really, we pretty much left it all in the field with this one. I feel like we found a way to make pretty much everything work, including that whole 17 that I know a lot of people have talked about, which I won't spoil if you haven't seen it, but chances are you know what I'm talking about. So
what I want to know, I started exploring, is does this go all the way around? I love that you can just explore this environment. I mean, ooh, you can find all kinds of
It is
things.
explorable.
Yes, yeah.
it's fully, yeah. In fact, if you keep
Edward's
going, there's
been
actually
many-
another
many-
entrance in the maze further down there.
I spent a lot of time making sure that it all goes around, there's a complete labyrinth, and that there are no straight lines in the level. Everything is slightly curved. Everything's to give it more of the handmade feel that you don't often
Yep.
get in digital work. So you
Nice
can
shot.
go.
And it
I
reminds
don't
me
want
so
to. I
much
don't want to
of
send you
being-
away, but
If you
It
want to get
reminds me
lost in the
so much of being
labyrinth
in
for
the
a few
actual
hours.
set.
Actually,
So how long
that
did this
was one of
take
the other
from
things that
start
we
to
ended
end?
up. Oh, you were asking how long it took from start to end? I think we.
How long?
This
How
one
long this
took?
took? Yeah.
10
It
months?
took about. I think this was about 9 or 10 months of fairly
Okay.
consistent work. So we've kind of extended that out a little bit with the other courses. So that's maybe a little bit longer, just because the scale of this one is so just physically big. I think that you could fit most of our other. You could fit like 2 or 3 of our other courses inside the footprint for this one, just the playable area.
Oh, wow.
Although you were mentioning something, Karen, that reminded me of one other thing that we did end up cutting is Don had done some really awesome like forced perspective stuff that matched like having the tunnel actually go into a forced perspective sort of thing where it closes in and gets smaller. It just didn't work in VR. And in fact, we also had the idea around the worm where we wanted to have that moment where it reveals the, you know, the hidden doorway. And once people are not, it's not on camera, you can't do the forced perspective tricks. And so it just didn't work in VR.
Yeah, it's got to be from one exact camera angle, and in VR you could see all behind the curtains. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were a couple things like that they just didn't end up working in VR, but that was just kind of intrinsic to sort of like how we were doing it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can run around before it's my turn. I'm going for it. I'm gonna see how far I can get. Here we go. Woo! No detours, just straight around the edge there. Whoop! I'm getting tangled up in my wire. This is huge. Oh, my turn. Oh well. I got like an eighth of the way.
Next time.
It's massive.
I like that idea though.
Speed running
A lot of
Labyrinth.
the
Yeah, exactly. Speed mazing.
Okay,
I
I'm
was gonna
gonna
say a
run
lot
again.
of players online have decided that like hide and seek is a really fun game to play while you're in here, and just
Yeah.
adding a course that has a maze just makes it even more fun, I think.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how you would find anyone in there. Like you wouldn't have to even hide that well. Just go anywhere out there and it'll take forever to find somebody, I would feel like. But
Still going.
I guess if you allow people to fly.
Yeah.
Oh, going over the hill.
He's halfway.
Is someone tracking me?
I'll
They're going down
fly
the
up
hill.
and take a look at where you're at.
Woo!
Oh, you're...
Oh, I see you're coming.
Yep, you're
It's
almost
like,
there.
it's like a
Oh, my
loading
turn.
bar.
Oh well. Oh well. There we go. Whoops. Yeah, I need to. Walking off my. Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that was so different on this course compared to a couple of the other courses was that we really like each hole does really sort of occupy a scene from the movie,
Yeah.
which is that's what gives it such a massive feel, and I love how it just like every time you start a new hole, you're in a whole new environment, and it really sort of reveals itself throughout the whole game, and it's just constantly evolving as opposed to some of the other courses that are a bit more open. Where you just feel it, but it to me it doesn't really feel even claustrophobic at all because you're just constantly finding new stuff as you play through. So it was super interesting to see how you took all those scenes and stitched them together in a way that started in early 2D concept drawings.
Yeah. And Henning and I like to
Game's
geek out
killing me.
about how composition and how each scene reveals itself. So we put a lot of effort in turning a corner and then seeing a framed Ludo or a framed Wise Man, or having the Goblin City reveal itself as you turn the corner.
Checking out the worm here. So fun. Oh my gosh. Oh.
And the worm was animated by Chase, correct?
Yeah, Chase did the worm. Henning
Chase did the
did the
worm.
Wise Man. Yeah, Henning did the Wise Man and Hoggle, and I think everything else was Chase. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But is it
They
my?
both
I
come-
didn't see the thing. Is it my turn
think it's
again?
you, Karen,
Elaine?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oop. My,
it was because this is also the first time that we have done characters, especially like this. We've had the sheep and stuff, but I think one of the biggest challenges for us is that because they were going to be there kind of constantly throughout, we kind of had to invent a bit of business for them to always be doing without it seeming like, because like getting a VR character to actually look at you is incredibly hard, and you kind of have to sacrifice a lot of acting in order to let the code sort of take over. So kind of coming up with a bit of business for each of them was a decent bit of work to see what worked and what didn't, and and yeah, we went through a couple different versions of the worm before we finally had to go with his sleepy tea.
Yes.
And
No,
it's the tea from Sweetopia in the Walkabout Mini Golf Extended Universe.
Oh yes. If you notice the China pattern, it actually has like golfers on it. It was in one of our other courses.
Oh, wow.
So
But,
one of our
special
viewers
to
wanted to
Emma.
know. Yes, absolutely, and she actually does ceramics in real life. So one of our viewers wanted to know, Karen, if you got to keep some of the kind of ephemera from the making of the movie. We got to go out to Henson Studio and see a little bit of it, but they let us know that a lot of that has been sort of dispersed to different museums. But did you get to hold on to any of the puppets or props from the film?
No, the puppets, they hang on to all those, and the foam latex has to be really looked after very, very carefully. But there was a really, really lovely plaster cast of the worm that was used to practice. It was made from the same mold that the latex skin came from, but they did a plaster version to practice the painting. Marion Appleton is the person who did the beautiful, beautiful paint job on the worm, and so that worm got saved, and it's now in the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta.
Nice. Nice.
But
And they were really helpful with us. They sent us some 3D scans of the puppets, and they've been helping us with the. We're doing a charity tournament in about a week or so, benefiting them. They've given us some wonderful prizes. They've been just great.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I did a test when I was trying this out before to see when these stones are turning. If you hit the ball down there, what happens? And it just resets. So I
Yep.
I figured,
Yeah, don't do that. Bad idea. I'm also kind of curious on the physical puppets. Do they often have multiples that they're sort of like going between? Like, do those puppets get kind of worn out that they need to have multiples on set when they're shooting, or is it always just the single one?
It depends how much they're used. They had like multiples. I think they have two of Didymus, or they might have two that do slightly different things. Like Ludo had a happy face and an angry face, and I think Hoggle had a happy face and a grumpy face, and I think he ended up using his grumpy face most of the time. But in the music video, if you remember the Labyrinth music videos, I think Hoggle finally had a chance to wear his happy face. But some characters that just have one scene, especially with these, were just very complicated animatronic characters. So with all the mechanisms and all the work with them having multiples of them, if they just have one scene, it wasn't really needed. You just had to be very, very careful with them, and if necessary, the skin could be swapped out if something got dirtier or damaged, to keep the same mechanisms, but put a fresh skin on the existing head.
So a few people have asked about the corollary between practical puppetry and animating characters in a VR game. So do you all, I know, Karen, your talents bridge those two sort of disciplines in terms of animation. So what are the...
I chopped it. Does that count? I probably counts.
Oh, bumped it, yeah.
Yeah, it
We're
counts.
super rule followers when it comes to that.
So is there any corollary between practical puppeteering and rigging digital animation?
Well, I've mainly done animation of digital characters. Sometimes just like super basic rigging. But the main thing with at least hand puppets, like the middle of the puppet has a hand in it, so it just needs to have like the right framework, and then some of the rigging is just the peripheral things like the arms and legs and tails, or within the head if it's animatronics. All the framework for that, but both of them just require just a good knowledge of our organics and movement, so that whether it's an animator or a puppeteer, so they can get the acting they need.
I feel like we might need to trim that rock down. I don't think that anyone would complain if we shaved that rock down a little bit.
So this taps into a question that's on the chat right now, which is that one, is this hole hole-in-oneable, and two, do we actually plan ways to make them hole-in-one, or do people just figure that out on their own?
So we have a general guideline where we want most of the holes to be hole-in-oneable. We won't necessarily not do a hole if it doesn't seem practically. And I think at this point, every hole in the game has been hole-in-one, but some of those are not what we would consider hole-in-oneable. They're just like crazy, ridiculous trick shots that people have done or found out. So most holes in the game are hole-in-oneable, but I don't know if this one has been yet. But there's definitely a way. If you just send it down there, there's likely a path through, but this is definitely one that was not necessarily designed as that.
This is a blue moon right now, because I've never had this much trouble on this hole.
I think, well, this is also the first time we've played 8 players, I think, or that I've played 8 players in this course, and it's just a lot more, when you're waiting a lot longer between your turn, you got to think about it a little bit more.
You got to polish the conversation skills.
Yeah, I actually had a kind of a follow-up animation question while you're loading up the next one, David. I'm curious, Karen, because you've also been doing so much, both real physical puppetry and the digital stuff. Have you played around with any of the new digital puppetry that's kind of people have started to do, especially Henson, in the last last decade or so?
I briefly tried a few versions of the Henson digital performance system, but it's like learning a musical instrument. Like if you've never played a piano, then you don't just kind of. I kind of practiced for a day and then tried doing something, but that's like practicing a piano for a day and then playing a concert at Carnegie Hall.
Gotcha. So it's not there's not a one-to-one corollary with the traditional puppeteering. Then it is kind of a different, kind of an adjacent skill. Then
it's if you set it up right, there's like learning how to with the Henson performance system. There's the way to set it up so that the controls work with what you instinctively want to do as a performer, and that tends to be different for every performer. And so once you get to the point where you have a system figured out with what you want each stick and each control and each input to do, then it can be just as instant as puppeteering. And like I said, I tried to just learn it very quickly, but it just takes more time. So the people that are really awesome at it, they've just been doing it for years. They're so good at setting up the controls as well as performing them.
Gotcha. So on something like Labyrinth, then, like you were probably working, like the Worm, for instance, you were likely working quite a bit with the people doing the actual rigging and puppet making in order to make sure that you had different controls and where you wanted them and kind of influencing how it was actually built then.
Well, the Worm actually was pretty simple. First of all, so there's like a little finger-sized worm, actually smaller than the worm you've got there, and then a hand puppet-sized one. And so the hand puppet-sized one was a hollow skin, and then the inside of it had like a plastic and foam rubber framework that was fitted out by Raleigh Cruson, who built the Red Fraggle puppet. So, and that puppet was a Stradivarius, and I knew just having her work on this, she'd make another Stradivarius. So I was very, very pleased about that. So yeah, I just discussed with her where my hand was going to be and what I was going to be doing, and then there's kind of the separate skull that holds the mechanisms, and that just gets padded out so that the hand can fit against it properly. But the eye mechanisms for the worm, it was just a really simple joystick. I sat behind a giant-sized brick wall and reached my hand through a hole in the wall to puppeteer the head and the mouth of the worm, and then my left hand was able to do just this one joystick, one direction, blink the eyes, and the other turn the eyes. Almost.
Heartbreaker.
And it allowed me. So I did some practice, but it was pretty straightforward. Controlling it all myself allowed me to be spontaneous and try different things on different takes.
And are you usually looking at that on like a reference monitor so you can see what's happening on screen? Then you've got
yes. Looking at a monitor that shows exactly the view of the camera, because so much of what makes the Henson style puppets work is just the slight little ways that you cheat. Let me get those. Boink. The slight little ways you cheat the eye focus and the head and the body to get emotions and movements to read. So seeing exactly what the audience will be seeing is absolutely crucial.
Cool.
Has there been a puppet where you felt like you just instantly connected more so than any other performance, where you were handed a puppet and you just went, oh yeah, this I've got, no practice, or rather one that just you felt called to you straight away?
Ooh,
So close.
Well, Red Fraggle certainly was pretty magical to perform. Although I started performing her when I was still pretty new to puppeteering, so there was a period of time where I was just getting used to how to be a puppeteer, and how to look at the regular scan monitors, and how to physically have my body next to other puppeteers' bodies when you're moving around on the set, and how to understand how cutting between different cameras works. So that was like the big part of starting out being a Henson puppeteer. And so once I had that figured out, then physically puppeteering Red, just because it's such a beautiful puppet. That was lame.
We're really kind of spoiling this hole for the folks who haven't played it before, because it's pretty clear which one you're supposed to choose.
Look away!
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm still so confused.
Man, there were so many of us doing these guys. We had, was it 3 or 4 people for each one? And we were behind, behind the door, reaching through, and it was crazy.
Oh, so there was sort of like, so there were 4 people puppeteering each of those. Were some of those remote, like, I don't know what you would call it, but sort of like more like an animatronic sort of thing, or was it all like actual physical?
All the heads were hand puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the hands were live and some were just static and fastened to the door just because we didn't have room to have enough people back there.
Mm-hmm.
And just for the folks at home,
And someone was puppeteering the foot. It was like a separate thing.
I assume with the hands,
Yeah.
they weren't sticking their feet through the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be upside down for a 20 minutes while you're getting a shot would be.
Okay, I'm just gonna try this. What happens?
So, Jared, I had a question for you,
Yeah.
which is, someone that spent so much time thinking and writing about it and interacting with the Henson fandom. What was it like? And you'd been a walkabout player previously to reviewing it, I
Yep.
believe. So what was it like sort of seeing it through and reviewing it through that lens of people that may not understand VR, have tried VR, sort of, how did you think it translated? What
Yeah.
were some of the challenges?
I was gobsmacked by the scale of it. That was probably the thing that got me. The fact that you can fly up and you can solve this maze if you want to. And just you feel small. Like I feel like I'm standing in a giant, labyrinth when really I'm standing in my bedroom. It's so, and just seeing the attention to detail. Now I played this with a friend of mine who has never seen Labyrinth, and I was curious to see what his that was quite short. Curious to see what his impression was going to be, and he was just as blown away as I was. Now I had to explain to him who Hoggle was, Ludo was, what this room was, but he didn't. I don't think he lost anything by not understanding that. So I think you guys have done a great job at making it accessible, not only for us who obsess about these sort of things, but also people who have never seen the movie can still get a the experience out of it that I think you guys are going for.
And I love how you interpreted Shaft of Hands to work in a tunnel, because obviously a vertical shaft would be very, very tricky. But just the feeling of it is just really, really nice.
This was also one.
Heebie-jeebies.
It does. I will say it gives me the heebie-jeebies much less once we added the audio. When it was just the silent hands without some of the chattering, it was a lot creepier to me. But
this
yeah,
was fun. Trying to sculpt a background ends up this in the following area ends up being a spiral with a basalt, sort of like a curved impossible basalt down
It
through
bounced back.
the whole underground area, which was fun.
Now, very quickly, sorry guys, I've just discovered my headset's low. I'm going to attempt to get to the 9th hole, and then you can get Emma in, and I'll jump on and I'll watch instead. But so just don't be surprised if I disappear.
okay. Well, if we lose you, thank you so much for joining us.
I am plugged in, and I reckon I've probably got another 10 minutes, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other holes or environments that we sort of like. This was definitely one where like it took a lot of thinking in order to figure out how to do the hands in a way that the vertical just wouldn't work. I'm trying to think of any other big sort of like scenes from the movie that we kind of had to reinterpret in a drastically different way.
Well,
Don, I'm kind of looking at you to see if there's any others. Oh,
Yeah,
the tunnel cleaner,
Definitely
yeah.
the tunnel cleaner, trying to figure out how to make an endless tunnel not be an endless tunnel.
Mhm.
It turns
going
out we
that-
just put ends on it.
That's right. And really dark ends.
Don't ruin the magic.
Edward, they'll know
Do you
now.
recognize any of these hands, Karen?
I recognize the face the face here as one of my favorite faces. I think that was Mac Wilson's team. I think that was a face that he did. We would just spend just a long time. Everybody just teamed up together. There's some shots in the documentary of all of us standing around. Usually about 3 people on a team, and just trying all different kinds of faces.
How many people were crammed into that tunnel when you actually shot?
Well, it was a 40-foot tall shaft, and we shot it in two parts. If you notice, that Sarah, she folds down once and stops, and they hold her, and then they say, "Oh, she chose down." They let her go, and she folds again, and then lands a different way. And
All right,
so
guys,
that
I'm
was
about
you-
to get kicked out of this thing, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
keep missing it.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. This is just all about
Lovely
me, I
to
guess.
meet you.
Okay, here we go.
So one of the
Believe in you.
questions we're seeing a lot
Hey,
is
we-
about the sound design and sort of the Foley and the voices and things of that. So Lucas, do you want to talk about who and how we sort of went about deciding what the vocalizations would be and the different and the score as well?
Yeah, so Kirby Medor, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. I just realized I've never said it out loud. But so he was I had worked with him on Ocean Maker, one of the animated films that I had done. And so he did pretty much, I know I mentioned earlier that like the little goblin things, but really everything other than that was all Kirby. And yeah, he basically did those more like kind of a typical film, in that we would sort of like, we basically got the animation done and then he would do all the Foley, and it definitely shows when you see the other characters moving around and like all of those little things that frankly a lot of times you don't necessarily get in a video game because it's so much more, it's usually little tiny chunks of animation that you're having to sort of score to or add audio to. But yeah, the fact that he was able to do all of the little Foley bits for every single little thing and every little footstep and all that really sort of like makes it feel more real and tactile. Man, David, you've been practicing.
Am I the
Wow.
captain of letting Emma enter the room?
Oh yeah, let
is
her.
it-
she's
Let
here.
her. But if
Let
you
her
could
join
hit
this
let
poll.
her join current poll.
There she is. Okay, so it still wants me to choose something. I got this big thing here,
Yeah.
so
Don't be kind.
Hit join current hole.
oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
sick, Edward.
So another question that people are asking right now is making the characters. They're loving them. Are we going to be doing more of them? How costly were they, technical wise and time wise, to create?
I mean, I think that they were much. I think that we hadn't necessarily planned at the beginning to do as many. And then what it became is that once we had a few characters, it sort of became like, well, now if we don't do that, then people are going to be disappointed that if we don't get to that moment, then you don't see a couple of the other characters, like even the goblins that are all over the place. Like we didn't have to do those, but the whole course felt a little like it was lacking a bit of life without some of those, even like having these guys' eyes move, which is a very simple thing. But
I love
think
seeing the eyes move on these guys. It's just so effective and so creepy. Really nice.
Yeah. But so yeah, I think that now that we definitely, so many of us on the team have a animation background, so we weren't so scared of animation or the characters. It was more the technical constraints, and one of the big benefits that we got from Labyrinth is that because it's all of these sort of like little areas that you can have a lot more going on in those little areas, because when you're in that, you can kind of shut off the rest of the level.
Yeah.
Actually, the hands tunnel was the one where just the sheer amount of animation going on in there was a bit of a technical challenge. But I feel like we've worked it out well enough that in the future we can likely be doing more. And I mean, knowing, Karen, that you've been doing a lot of animation at Valve and stuff, the big difference with this, because we're going for Quest, which is mobile or standalone VR, you really you're really limited on the number of how complex your rig can be, the number of bones, just everything is much more limited in order for it to run smoothly.
Well, and one thing I'll say is that, we learned, have been working with the folks at the Jim Henson Company, and they've really helped us. Like, we all had our personal memories of the film, artistic takes, thoughts about it. And I've been lurking on the Labyrinth fan club, sites for months and months and months. But they really helped us sort of understand that every creature is somebody's favorite. And so, and really to make sure that we do that. And I have to mention Jimmy, who we work with, who unfortunately passed away in the middle of the process, but he was so essential in championing the project and really helping us understand the depth of meaning of the kind of the legacy of the film, but also just how the characters needed to feel and the creatures needed to feel. But just really that piece of every creature, every character, every scene sort of matters to someone deeply, and that we really needed to sort of get that right. So Jimmy was essential in that way.
Oh yeah, Jim Formanek. He was the Henson merchandise guy, and just for years, so many amazing things with all the Henson properties. He made that magic happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Henson definitely does feel like, especially compared to a lot of other places, Henson really does feel like kind of a large extended family. And I know that just the fact that it's been around and been independent for, it's been 40 years, I guess, 45. I don't even know exactly when the company itself, but yeah, they were so great to work with. And yeah, the fact that we were able to, chat with everybody, and even Lisa came down while we were there on the lot shooting and was able to we were able to chat with her a little bit. So it was so great to see that sort of like that vibe and that style of project, making cool stuff is still alive.
Yeah.
I will say, for anyone who complains about this hole, I did slow down the tunnel cleaner like a decent bit, right? It was going a little, it was at least twice this fast until a few days before launch. And I just watched a few too many people struggle, and I was like, okay, let's, it's a little less realistic to the film, but it's, people can actually complete the hole now.
So that's a good sort of jumping off point. I mean, generally speaking, they do get a little bit less challenging, but talk about the balance between, challenging and competitive and just fun. That's always sort of a discussion in terms of how difficult we make them, how accessible we make the different holes.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely try to strike a balance. Like, we want people. I think what we generally try to strive for is a way that someone can complete a hole, like that an average player can do okay and not get too frustrated on it. And a lot of that does come out sort of like once we get it out into beta and we have other, people who have never played the course try it for the first time. It's really, really important to watch how everybody with a really wide variety of skill sets just plays it and does. You get so much out of just watching it. Yeah. And even sort of like, I always wish we had a bit more time to sort of like really dial that in and tweak stuff. The reality is that by the time that it gets to that point, every change is more painful because you're having to, change it in 10 different places, and so many different people have to be involved anytime there's a change. So we do try to make it as accessible as possible and still be challenging, or sometimes provide some alternate ways of playing a hole that might be more advanced but are really, really fun. But ultimately, it's like we want people to be having fun more than anything else. And the nice thing is that it's also, when you're playing with other people, it's there's some good-natured ribbing and just trash talking that it seems like always kind of goes into it. I feel like, especially with so many of us, we're being extra nice. Usually we would be throwing a lot more shade than we are.
It's true. Mini golf shade.
Keeping it in.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I would like to talk about this has the most wonderful special effect that for anyone who's tried to develop on Quest would really appreciate, and that is having lights lighting up the walls as it goes around, which you can't afford to do. So what Craig, our marvelous technical artist, did was create a duplicate of this section of wall, and has a material which is just the red pieces moving across it that have been synced to the
Clever.
rotation. And I just,
In fact,
Nice.
if
too marvelous
you
a
get
special
really
effect.
close, you could even see that the red lights are ever so slightly off the wall, just like by a centimeter or so. If you really want to see how that was working. But yeah, there's a lot of things like that where just even the number of lights that you can have on Quest is, I think you get 2, but even those are very expensive, so you want to use them very, very cautiously.
So I know we're a ways away. Are we gonna do a full 18 or just this 9?
I think it might need to be just this 9, probably. We got started a little bit late, but
Well, let me go ahead and ask this question then. So we got a lot of questions about hole 17. People want to know like technical challenges, special effects, all that sort of stuff. So do we want to sort of talk about that, or we could even fly over there and just have a look and end the discussion there?
That might,
Why
that
don't
might
we,
be good, just to jump up and
Yeah.
and
why don't we do that? So yeah, why don't we all just head over to hole 17?
All right.
So
we're gonna be here a while.
I will say it is so much fun seeing the reactions of people, like just the people who are streaming their playthrough for the very first time. Once they get to hole 17, and just sort of like that reaction, because you do sort of turn a corner and you're just there, and it's such an iconic location from the film. But then when people play it and also get the reaction, because if I'm guessing most of the people watching have played it at this point, but there's some really, the gravity does change, and just seeing it happen. I remember the first time we were testing it out, and when it worked, and I remember just like giddily laughing like a schoolgirl for a good 3 minutes of just like, it works! I can't believe it works! But it's just a very surreal feeling when you first see it, especially in VR, because it does feel real and like you're there. And so when you see that ball just suddenly start going the opposite way. But yeah, so there was definitely.
You guys
Go ahead.
just popped over there, right? Is that right? You guys just went over there.
Yeah, so
Yeah, okay, let
if
me-
you hit the A button, you can go up to the big God view and then just point at 17 and click on it. That's the
17. There we
quickest
go.
way to
There
get
we
there.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Yay!
Woo. Yeah, this is amazing, and because that set was like they built that set, and
Oh, really? That
This
was
is
it
like
wasn't
being-
matte paintings. It was all an entirely enclosed sort of
I
physical.
think just a little bit of matte things, but there was just so much. From what I remember, there was like this much of the set they actually built.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's what I remember. And I was puppeteering the puppet Toby.
Oh,
And,
really?
so like
Oh,
I mean,
they did a
he
puppet
was-
version?
there was a puppet, the upside down Toby, and then the one that's kind of sitting over the edge of the stairs. I don't know if they've got that part in here, but yeah, that was it was because it was a real set, and so so they had me with the puppet way up there on the safety line. There's upside down Toby.
And maybe Emma and Edward, you guys can talk a little bit about building this, because Emma, I think you did most of the pieces, and then Edward, you did a lot of the. I could be mixing that up, so feel free to correct me. But yeah, just talking about kind of reconstructing this in VR.
Yeah, this is pretty much
Yes.
all Edward.
Haha!
Okay.
It's me. It was about the most satisfying thing I've ever done in my career, and I know that I'm going to be looking back on this in years and going, "This was the it." Trying to
We're gonna show
recreate
this at your memorial,
non-
Edward. It's true.
Thank you. Thank
One
you.
day.
I want
Sure.
my tombstone to look like this. If we could build this room as a mausoleum, then I'm happy.
Got it.
Uh,
We have that
but
on
really,
record.
as fun as we think how much we can cheat in building sets in VR, we don't have, at least on the Quest, the joy of building a non-Euclidean space. So it had to all be work and fit in the rest of the level. So the rest of the labyrinth had to all be curved but not squeeze into here, and this had to look infinite and confusing but not interact with the rest of the level, and it had to all fit. That if you wanted to build this as a theme park, this would all work, and that was just the most fun challenge I could possibly imagine.
Yeah, that
So nice.
all of this underground stuff was a big challenge. Yeah, literally, if you fly up through the floor, you'll be in the throne room in like a couple of feet. So yeah, it really is very similar to how you would do a real life thing, where it's all built out to fit exactly together like a great big jigsaw puzzle. Even the void from the 18th hole sort of like perfectly conforms to the underside of the labyrinth, so that it's using every possible inch of it that it can. But yeah, I remember there was this was one of the other spots where we had to do a bit of the where we had also tried doing the forced perspective, like having the doorways go off into nothing, and that was another spot that we ended up like, oh no, we actually need to build all of those stairways for real, because you just really noticed if they weren't sort of like, if it didn't feel like you could walk up and down them.
So I think we've got just time for a couple more coconut questions for Karen, and then probably that'll be a wrap for us. So any other final questions for Karen? We so appreciated your time and getting to spend a little bit of time with you.
Oh, it's been so fun sharing this with you guys, and hearing people's questions about the movie.
Yeah. I guess
I'm
maybe
very
my
excited.
one last
Project for
question
you?
would be oh, go ahead. Edward, you
I
go.
was gonna. Sorry, I'm on a delay. Wrong country. Is there a dream project for you that you haven't been able to work on, but something that is niggling in the back of your mind that you want to get to one day?
Oh my gosh. Right now I've worked on so many amazing projects with amazing people that audiences have loved. It's like I can't imagine where you could go from there. I've just been so lucky and so fortunate. I don't really know. There's my cup is full.
Your teacup is full.
I love it. I think I was going to ask a combination of, one, did you ever think that Labyrinth would become a mini golf course? And two, what would be your dream mini golf course? If you could play any mini golf course that doesn't exist, what would it be?
Oh, Fraggle Rock! Come on.
There you,
Yes.
there you go.
That's
You
that's
just
a
want to
nice
be
rep.
invited back for another stream, don't you?
There we go. Yep. Like, can you imagine playing mini golf in the Gorg's garden? But of course, the Gorgs are Gorg size, and you are Fraggle size. That would. I got you thinking there. Or shrinking down to Doozer size and playing golf with Doozers if you're Doozer size.
Yeah.
So many ideas.
Yes.
Very good. Well, thanks everybody so much. More fun to
Thank
come.
you,
Everyone,
everybody.
stay tuned. Thank you so much, Karen. It's been a real pleasure. Hooray to the team. Woo! Thanks to all the viewers
did it.
for tuning in. See you on the course.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.